Well, good morning, or good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you might be. I'm Jim Drew, and this is a Q&A session for the Blingboard64 campaign for May 25th, 2024. Let's take a look at the campaign real quick, and see if I can share myself. Let's see, which one is this one? That would be that one. Okay, so here's where we are with the campaign. We're at 75,124 and 250% funded, so amazing. And thank you, everybody. I'm a little bit surprised still, I guess. So if you're new to this, the Blingboard64 is a replacement keyboard for your Commodore 64 or Commodore 64C or your VIC-20 or your C16, I guess, if you want to throw it in there. It's a full replacement keyboard with modern Cherry MX style switches and keycaps that are identical to the original and lots of features. So let's chat about what's coming out, where we are in the campaign here. So this, if you scroll through the campaign, you can see we are at stretch goals since we are funded. And we recently reached goal 7A, and 7A was for top printing. So now with this campaign, since that was reached, you have the option when you pick your colors for your keycaps. You can also pick whether you're having the top printed with the face, which is the old school bread bin, or top only, which is the 64C. So you'll have your option of either one of those step printing be done. So that's great. So now we've got choices. So next stretch goal is number 8. That's for the Bling box. And let me chat about, some people are a little bit confused by this, and I'm probably at fault for causing the confusion. Originally, this was going to be just a case, and it turned out that it was a lot more involved than just a case because of the height constraints inside the case. I wanted to keep it low profile, and as a result, it kind of took on a life of its own and evolved into a complete standalone product, really. So let me grab one here. So this is what we call the Bling box, and the Bling box it's a replacement keyboard, complete keyboard. And so this goes in this case that I've designed, and you can see on the back side of it, it's got a USB port and a DB25 interface. And the DB25 interface has all the signals for the Commodore SX64 and the Commodore C128D, the DCR, which is the big metal box with a separate keyboard. So using a standard male-to-male DB25 cable, which is a printer parallel cable basically, you can use this with your SX64 or your C128D as a replacement keyboard. Also on this port, because I've got all these nifty little pins here, I have the ability to basically support any kind of protocol for keyboards that uses a clock and a data line, which is pretty much everything. So the old school IBM PCXT interface, the PS2 style interfaces for anything that uses PS2, the Commodore Amiga 1000, 2000, 2500, 3000, 4000, all those have clock and data lines. So anything that has a clock and a data line, we can program the firmware to use this as a replacement keyboard. All you need is the DB25 to a whatever end connector you need for your particular machine. And so I'll have cables and I'll have pinouts for this so people can build their own cables, selectable through the magic functions of all the different keys you can push together, so you can actually do this without needing a PC. But there's a USB port. You can plug this into USB port. And you can do configuration for your keyboard through USB, and they'll have an application probably for, at least for Windows for sure, maybe some other systems. So if you're a programmer and want to help make some software to configure the keyboard for Linux or Mac OS or something like that, or even Windows, contact me. I'll be happy to have you help me. So let me explain a little bit about this box here. So this is a 2.5 case, and this is where the expensive part here. So doing tooling for plastic, as everyone knows, is not cheap, which is why we have the stretch goals the way it is. The stretch goal doesn't actually pay for everything. I pay for this, and hopefully someday we'll get my money back out of that deal. But this is it's a nice case. You can see this is a 3D printed one that I've made. Actually, I've got a giant 3D printer, so I was able to print this. So you can see it has metal inserts. The reason why I did this is because people are going to want to take this apart probably. So internally we have the circuit board like this. Of course, it's all populated. I just showed this so I can show you the inside of it. So this board here, this is the Dazzler board, and the Dazzler board is a lot different than the Super board that's with the Blingboard64. Has different features. It doesn't have the ability to talk to this Commodore 64 port like the Super Duper board does. But this also has the ability to be a keyboard for everything else. So there's a trade-off with features there, but this is designed for being external. So you can see this is a it's a slick, small integrated circuit board here. Height-wise, you can see that it's like super low profile. In fact, it's so low profile, it's too low profile to put in an 18650 battery. I wanted to keep it short because I wanted to keep it basically the same height as the SX64 and the C128B keyboard, so it's pretty low profile. It's 21 millimeters tall. 5 millimeters of that is the plastic, so it's only 16 millimeters tall inside for storing the battery or something. There are LiPos that are this size, and you can actually use like a AA size battery. So I'm kind of looking into some options where you could make this a completely portable wireless keyboard, because it does have Bluetooth support built into it. And so it'd be nice to be able to have, a complete keyboard that's wireless and you can take it with you. I may end up making a dongle for the 64 itself that plugs into the keyboard header. That would be a Bluetooth receiver. So you'll be able to do wireless Bluetooth cable into the 64 if you wanted to. Some people want to have boxes like that for various emulators, for Vice and various things. So this is kind of the option. So like I said, I made these little threaded inserts here so you can take this thing apart easily, because on the board, which you don't really see here because there's no connectors, but there's actually 2 ports in here for expansion. And on the back side of the keyboard itself, I put in 2 knockout ports, which are probably hard to see here. Out there, here and here. So you can punch these out. You can pass cable through there, and you can actually put a TFT display on the back side of the keyboard if you wanted to, a small one, like up here, or a bigger one if you wanted even. This literally could be a game console because the CPU is so powerful. With the TFT in there, we can literally make it a game console if we wanted to. So I might tinker with some stuff like that, but really it's designed to be a keyboard. And I know everyone's going to get crazy on the request list, so let's do a keyboard first, and then we can go from there. So that's the Bling box. And the next stretch goal after that, if for some reason we get up to that point, will be for the Razzle LED. And so what that is it on the stock red bins and 64C, you have a power LED. And I thought, well, since we have the ability to have an external LED output, why not make the ability to plug into, there's usually a LED with a power plug in here that goes into the motherboard to power up the LED. And I thought, well, why don't we just make a power LED? And so I did. So that's what the Stretch Gold 9 is. Basically, it requires tooling, believe it or not, because I made a fake LED lens that's in clear plastic. And so there's 2 different ones, one for the 64C, which is a rounded T1 style LED. And then the 64C is, where I put the lid for that one? 64Cs is like this, but it's a square LED. So we needed basically 2 sets of tooling for that. And all they are is the fake little lens that pops in. So it will replace the stock LED exactly. You simply remove the stock one and you pop this in. On the back side of this lens assembly is a single RGB LED with a cable. that can plug into the Blingboard64 motherboard. And that just got changed. In fact, all the boards just got changed again. So this is like, I'm not sure how many revisions I've done, but quite a few. As you guys give me more ideas, and I'm trying to future-proof this as much as possible. So now on the new main board, there was originally a LED output, which is a little port here. So now I put another one on the other side because the 64C and the 64 bread bin have LEDs on opposite sides. So to make it easier to plug the wiring in, I simply put a port at each side and plug it in. So I build a program, whatever color that is, including flashing colors or, you know, fade in, fade out, whatever you want to do. Basically, that's be programmable as part of the that particular, you know, stretch goal. So that's the last stretch goal I can think of. We are, what, 6 days away, I think? Let's see. Yep, 6 days are left on the campaign. So we might get there, we may not, I don't know, but I guess we'll see what happens. So one thing was brought to my attention on the last Q&A that I wasn't really aware of, and I never saw the problem myself because I didn't mind how close things fit sometimes. But on the Ultimate 64, the keyboard connector on the right-hand side, when you're facing towards you, is a rather tight fit. It's almost impossible, actually, to fit the keyboard in here when you the whole bracket assembly and to get access to it. So I designed a replacement bracket set with a extender board. So basically this relocates the keyboard connector so that it sits outward like this, and you can plug it in, and the bracket which holds the keyboard in place. So there's two brackets, of course they're matching. So those are bracket set. So this fixes the issue with the keyboard itself. Let me figure out where my keyboards went to. There we go. So let me pop this in here. So you can see that, probably hard to see, that this sits nice and flush on here like it's supposed to. And now there's space under here for the keyboard connector. So you can kind of see in there. So that basically relocates the cable assembly, so it has a problem with it fitting. Again, like I said, with a standard bracket in here, I could get it to work, but it was close, but it was kind of pushing this up a little bit. So there was some pressure. Probably not good to have pressure. So I designed it like this. So if people have the mech board, we'll be able to use this as well. So this is something I'll offer to everybody, and it'll be, I think I'll have these in 2 weeks. So before the campaign's done. So people that have mech boards be able to actually get this little bracket and extender board as a kit that become the two brackets, the left and the right, and that board. So really that's kind of all I've got for today. I'm gonna go check out some of the questions here that people have got. So if you got questions, guys, chime them in. So Brian says, is it possible to have a small display for the Blingboard64 like the Blingbox will have? Yes, it is actually. I have on the back side, let me grab on the board here. So on the Supa board, and the Supa, actually Supa Dupa now, since we've got to that stretch goal. So I'm not sure this will focus, but so if you take a look on this corner up over here, there's an expansion port on here. And so I've got aux1, aux2, and I have, what else is on there? RxTX, power and ground. So that's an expansion port, and aux1 and aux2 can be an I2C port, and I can actually drive one of the small OLEDs or a TFT that's I2C input. So yeah, it's possible to do that. Not something that I had planned on doing, but hey, you know, it's just firmware. So that's the cool thing about all this work, really, is that as long as you've made the hardware future-proof, then any kind of feature you can dream up that's physically possible, we can do. So it's really not that complicated to add display stuff in there. You just drop in a library and you know, basically state what you want to display to the screen. So one of the things that I'm going to do with the Bling box, it's kind of like what I'm doing with the new Saver 2 product I'm working on. I'll have the ability to do like uptime. There's voltage. Actually, this actually checks the 64's voltage. I can show you the voltage. The time of day, your weather report for your area. There's whatever you can think of, we can do because it's internet connected. So, I mean, pretty much anything you want to display. If you want to display the stock market or something, you can probably do that too. So yeah, so we can probably work in some kind of display into the original one as well because of that. Okay, so speaking of stretch goals, maybe another color, like a color used for the 64C function keys. I think it's light gray. Well, so that's a good question because Commodore had all kinds of different colors. I think we could have an entire campaign of all the different colors that Commodore had. So we know that they had the orange, which is the old school VIC-20 original color, went to the original 64 silver label machines, and then they went to the darker gray. And so they have the Aldi colors, which are like the white color, which is what we actually have coming up for this campaign, actually, is the beige, the same color as the 64C. And so Dan Tootle, shout out to Dan. Hi, Dan. Dan's got color code information for me for those things that are Pantone colors. So we'll have the exact colors for that. So I'm not sure what color you're referring to with the 64C function keys. I'll take a look to see which particular color that one is, because like I said, there's been so many different colors. And I'll probably have different colors available. It's like with the original keycap campaign, I have, I think there's 4 colors I've got sitting here now that aren't printed, that were never part of the campaign. So I'll probably look at that, trying to print these if I could ever get time to actually go play with the 3D, the UV printer. So I'll look into that, but I'll look at the colors and see what we can do for those. One color I actually would like to have, I do have right now for the bread bin, is the same color that's used on the C16. So it's the medium gray. We call it the SX64 gray color. So I actually have that. And an interesting story about that. So I ordered 50 sets of those for me. And because the first batch was shipped out from China directly, which was, we know, was kind of a fiasco, they ended up shipping, I think, like 18 of those sets to people, the backers, that didn't get that color because nobody got that color except for me. I didn't even have it available in the campaign. But for the dark gray, they shipped those in place of it. And worse yet is that when they made the printing for the function keycaps, they missed, I believe it was F4. They didn't, so none of the function keys have F4 printed on them. So basically it ruined the entire set. There's no way to salvage that without redoing that particular keycap, and there's no way to do that. So that was bad. So like I said, we'll go into the colors. Let's see another question here. I'd like to see alternate case colors for the Bling box to match the C128, DS64, etc. So when we get the stretch goal number 8. Yeah, I would too. The problem with that is I have to run at least 50 sets of a color before I can change colors. Otherwise, there's a pretty substantial fee. Now, I can get around this fee, kinda, if I do transitional colors. And so what happens when you do injection molding, you throw in the pellets they're actually pellets that get melted. You throw those into a bin. Well, the machine gets into the bin and then heats them, and it does this little magic to make them liquid, and then does all the injection. So every time you switch colors, they have to clean that out. And they use some kind of a special, like this clear looking plastic. In fact, we can get it for our 3D printers that actually goes and cleans out your print head. And so you can use the next color, which nobody ever does. I don't ever do it. And same thing with this. I want the transitional colors. So if they switch from black to red or red to white, I want to buy the cases that are that transitional color. So basically, as the machine gets cleared out, you're going to have sections of the case that might be white, sections might be red, as it transitions from one color to the other. And so I penciled out the other day, it's actually cheaper for me to do that than it is to pay the fee for them to clean the machine and then switch colors. So, and some people might like those transitional colors, but it's cheaper anyway. And even if they just keep them and throw them away, it's actually cheaper for me than having to pay the fee for color switching. But I would like to have the SX64 gray. In fact, I can show you a couple of examples. So if you look at my Discord, you'll see I'm working on a gazillion things, and I've got so many things that are at 90+%. It's not even funny. So like, good example. So this is SX64 gray color scheme that I did for, this is the retro repair station. This is actually a chip tester and CPU tester and it's got so many different things. It's not even funny. These are actually plastic injection molded cases that I had made. I've had these for 4 years probably, sitting on this, and I keep moving this further down the list of things going to get released, but the time is coming for this. But this is the SX64 gray scheme. Basically, I've got a gray and a black lid. Same thing with the micro drive. These are plastic injection molded cases. I did the SX scheme like this. So you can do split colors. I'd like to be able to do upper lower case colors that are different. Maybe a dark case black back with a lighter case front. But yeah, I think SX64 and C128D. Some people have told me they want a red case. People want a blue case. I mean, it's all about cost, really. It doesn't matter to me what we have. It just it's super expensive to switch colors. Really, is what it is. And if somebody wants a color, you can do your own colors. And so I figured this out with the keycap campaign as well. If you get, I think it's 15 people together, and you amortize the color switch cost, and then I can run 50 of those. You guys get to keep the 15. I'll keep the 35 and keep them in inventory. So it costs you basically the color change fee that you can split up between all your buddies, and then you can pick whatever color you want to do, literally. So if you go to the Pantone chart, you can say I want Pantone 704, which is I think that's ice blue or it's red. I don't remember which of the two. It's one of the colors I actually have. And so you can say, hey, we want this, and you can actually order a custom color. So if you've got a user group or something like that, it will be possible, in the future to do this. Not today. We're going to focus on getting the campaign, up and done and stuff out to everybody. But yeah, I think we're going to have the ability to pick colors, and we'll have some more colors. So, all right, let me go on to the next question here. I'd like to see. Let's see. I was like pet style key fonts. Okay, here's another. Well, I'm glad you guys are bringing this up. So I'm still kind of in a battle with the companies over the printing, because people keep changing their mind about they want to do pad printing instead of the UV printing that I want. And then there's other companies. It's just behind the scenes, it's kind of a mess. But I'll get sorted through it, as you know, like I did in the last one. I want UV printing. I've always wanted UV printing. It's very durable. If you're familiar with UV printing, basically it is UV, it's ink, it's resin. So if you're familiar with a 3D resin printer, that's exactly what it is, but in a regular printer where you're laying down ink that is a resin, and then you're drying it with a UV lamp. So it cures, and it's hard. So it's hard, and it doesn't wear off. So it's kind of a holy grail for what we're doing here, because it's done on a printer. It's not done by hand. So if you're familiar with the issue we have with the keycap campaign, what happened was that the company basically took the money I gave them to make this great fixture for holding these keycaps, and they went to lunch or something with the money, because they ended up hand printing every single one of those keycaps, the top and face. I think it was 268,000 prints they had to do by hand. They literally held a keycap in hand on the desk, and then manually basically positioned this thing manually so that so as a result of that, getting a perfect set was a nightmare. And so we burned through 804 sets, I think, total, that we had to throw away, which is a lot of plastic to be thrown away to get good keycaps out to everybody. So with a UV printer, I mean, it's a printer. If you're familiar with a printer, it prints the same thing over and over and over again. It's repetition. So when you throw in your fixture, so I actually made a fixture. So I made this. This is a fixture to hold the keycaps, and it's magnetic. So it holds all the keycaps in place, and basically you load it with a blank set and you throw it into your UV printer, and it comes out looking like that when you're done. And it's perfect every time. And so that's what I had wanted for the 3D printing, or the UV printing process for that. So where are we going with this? Well, because it's UV printed, it's a printer file. So at that point, you can print whatever you want. So if you want a pet font or hieroglyphics or runic or whatever you wanted to have for characters, you could do that. And my end goal here for this whole thing was be able to go to the color picker website. So if you're familiar with the last campaign, there was an amazing web page that was made by Vince, and it basically, and Dan Tootle gave the graphic for it. It's the ability to see a physical computer, the bread bin case, as well as 64C case in different colors, and your keycaps in different colors. And so ideally what I'd like to be able to do is have that same setup where you can see all the stock face print, and then you can click on a keycap and you can upload whatever data you want to be on that keycap. And so you can actually do full color, the whole 9 yards. And so that's where I'm transitioning to. I really want to get to that point. And if I can get some time here and actually get my UV printer up and running, which is, I have an industrial UV printer, so it's a big one. And it's for doing things like this. And I should be able to actually print the keycaps with any color, any font, anything we want to. That's kind of what I want to do with the goal. And we'll see how that all pans out, but that's where we're headed on that. So let me go to the next question here. Very first version of Gideon's UC release, 2018, had an adapter to connect to keyboard to design error, which would later resolve. See photo. Case connected. So yeah, I heard this. I'm not sure what version. I got my board from Gideon like really early on, and I didn't get an adapter for it, but I know this particular one, and I actually had one of our guys from the CRX crew. I had a look at his Elite, I think it's called. Yeah, the 64 Elite. And we compared notes, and it's the same as mine. So it needs an adapter. I mean, technically it doesn't, because you can get it to fit if you just, kind of crush everything in place, but that's not a really good way of doing it. So this adapter is nice because it moves the connector away from the circuit board and gives you a bracket that's actually holds that in place and is the proper height. And so I think that's probably the better way to go here. All right, so let's see, will LEDs be bright enough to eliminate white keycaps? So if you look at the video, let's see if I've got my boards here. Short answer, absolutely. Long answer is, I'm not even sure what the keycap is. So if you take a look at the video and you notice the space bar, and that is a different color, and you also see there's white keycaps in the video. So those keycaps are from here. In fact, if you take a look at, this is a keyboard from the video right here, and you can see the return is a white keycap, and you can see it lit up in the video, and also the space bar was in gray, so it's a solid gray color, and it was lit up in the video. So yeah, it really does bright. And remember that in that video, I had to turn that, typically I run about 35–40% the brightness of the LEDs when I'm playing with it. But in the video, I had to turn it down to 30%. Otherwise, the camera was having a fit trying to video it because it's so bright. So that's 30% of brightness in the video. So you can see it's a lot brighter if you want it to be brighter. And so if you got opaque, like black keycaps, you will see the border in between. If you look at a keyboard, you can see that there's space between each one of the keycaps. It's a 1.4 millimeter space, basically a frame around every keycap. And you can see the light, no problem with black keycaps through that. So it does a nice job of backlighting the entire base of the keyboard. Okay, let's look at the next one. Love Blingbox. However, that huge D-sub looks like out of place. Any chance for a breakout solution with more elegant connection? No, sorry, I'm not changing it. This is what people wanted. This is why I got actually put into place. If we wanted to have a breakout, we could have just did a breakout box off the USB connector itself and has a kind of external interface. But this makes it easy to simply just plug in a keyboard and go. And so it was originally designed as a USB port only. And then a couple of the guys from our CRX crew said, hey, what about, the 664, the S664 or the 128D? And I'm like, oh, well, will look kind of like, yeah, you know, DB25 makes sense because it's the only way to get all the keys for the C128D is having all those pens. And I thought, well, at that point, we can really make an expansion port for anything else out there. So yeah, you know, you don't see the you know, the DB25 when you're using the keyboard because it's, you know, to the back, so you never see it anyway. So no, I won't be changing that. Okay, what's future plans after this campaign? Any plans for campaign for 16 keyboard? This is a 16. You can actually use this for VIC-20 or C16 now. The key map is something that's different for C16 because the way the wiring is different. The VIC-20 is the same. And you know, like I said before, if we can do printing for the VIC-20, I really want to do a C16 set. That's another reason I want a UAV printing, is that if you look at a Commodore C16, you're going to see that it has arrows on the top side, the top row, right-hand side, and different placement of the keycaps, the pounds at different location, different printing for it as well. So I really want to be able to do a C16 set as well, because I've actually been bombarded with people with asking about C16. I had no idea that people even used them at all still, so, or want to use them. So we definitely will do that. Let's see, future plan besides that. There's lots of stuff for sure that I got cooking. Oh, so let's probably talk about some of that actually real quick here. The stretch goal that we reached for the Super Duper board, and I realize that Super and Duper are not anything but US terms, and people don't quite understand them. Super Duper is what it is. When we reached that goal, we had the option at this point to do a lot of things we didn't have before. So there's a communications port in between the keyboard and the 64. And so I've been tinkering with this and getting ideas from one of our guys in the CRX crew. And we basically come up with the idea that we can actually talk to the keyboard in BASIC directly without doing any kind of machine coding, which is great. There's things we got to do to make it work, but you know, like it can be done strictly through BASIC. So you'll be able to actually write a BASIC program that will actually, you know, turn on different colors of LEDs, change things, fetch and receive or fetch and send configuration data for the keyboard from BASIC. There's going to be hard-coded macros. So it is keyboard recording anyway. The original campaign, Superboard did this as well. But you'll be able to assign certain key presses to do certain functions. So if you want to do like Commodore Shift M, then that's going to print, you know, a message to your mother. And who knows, whatever you wanted to program it to do. So one of the hard-coded things is going to be a BASIC program. It's a menu program for doing the configuration. It'll be built in. So all you have to do is press a key combo, and it types the entire program at about like 300 baud, basically. It's about, well, it's 22 characters per second on PAL machines and 25 characters per second on NTS machines. There's no way to tell the difference in the keyboard. So I've kind of got it set right now at 22, because 25 is the max you can do on PAL, and 30 is the max you can do on NTSC. So I kind of toned it down so whatever PAL will handle. I should probably make that a configuration variable as well, so it's a little bit quicker. Anyway, so basically it types out the program, and then it types out just enough code to run a stub that actually fetches the rest of the entire program from the memory inside the keyboard and then runs it. So you need a relatively small program to type to actually generate a bigger one that it can pull off. And there's a full file system inside of the machine. So the file system is kind of cool, is that it actually has like a directory and files and the whole 9 yards, and you're able to access that from 64 side and save files to it. There's 2 megs of space in there for storage, and I also have 2 megs of RAM on the unit itself. So my idea is that I'll probably take one of my copy programs I wrote back in the day and use the internal buffer for storing an entire disk image, so you can actually do one pass copy instead of a multiple passes. So that's kind of the stuff we're headed to in the future for this, because there's so much flexibility with having that communications port. There's a lot of options we can handle here. Let's see, I love the idea of being able to customize keys. I could replace the pound key with the slash key. Yeah, you could replace it whatever you wanted. So it'll be a replacement keyboard bracket for the right side of 64, or just an adapter for the connector itself. So what I'm doing, I'm going to provide a kit that does both. So it's basically a bracket for the left side and the right side. So this is the left side bracket, and then this is the right side bracket. So you can see it's got an adapter that actually, so it screws down. So this actually lifts up. So actually, I don't have it screwed down now actually at all. So you can see this actually lifts up. So you can slide the board in, and then there's a screw that holds it in place. And there's also a screw on the back side here. That's why there's an access hole here. There's actually a screw that passes through there and holds the whole thing in place. So it's like super stout. There's no way the keyboard's going to move it around. And then, oh, one thing I didn't say is, so on these brackets that I designed, on the back side, there'll be a threaded insert. So there'll be a metal threaded insert. So you'll have threaded screws. So it'll come with 2 metal, standard threaded screws instead of being self-tapping screws for plastic. I'm not a big fan of anything that you're going to have to remove ever, not being threaded. It makes it a lot easier to just simply, screw and unscrew. You need to pull it out, because we all know we're always monkeying with our stuff. So if you're going to open something up, it's better to have something you can take the screw in and out a few times without it being stripped out. So those will come with the metal inserts already in place. Okay, so let's see what else we got here. May I have overlooked, but is there a way to turn the LEDs off? The LEDs are off by default. So yeah, that makes it easy. You actually have to turn them on. And a lot of people are like, oh, I don't want LEDs, take them off the board. It's like, well, okay, it'll cost you extra to take them off the board, because when you're doing a production run, you just can't pull a board off and go, okay. So yeah, the LEDs will be off by default. And then when you do your keyboard setup, then you can turn them on depending on what you want to do. So like if you saw in the video, I have mine most of the time. I've got it set so that when a key is pressed, it lights up that key in white. You can have it light up in white. You can have it do a fade in and fade out. You can have it just blink momentarily on off. I've got right now programmed so that when you press the key down, it goes white and it stays white until you release the key. So when you're holding down a bunch of keys, you can see a bunch of lit up white on the keyboard. But you can choose colors. I mean, it's whatever color you want to do that. If you don't want the LEDs on at all, you don't have to have them on. If you want just the soft shift lock key cap to be lit up and that's it, or you want, just the function keys lit up or whatever, there's an entire matrix programmable for every key. And so any key position can be any key itself. So if you don't like the keyboard layout, or if you wanted a ZWERT instead of a QWERT layout, you can do that. If you want to move things so they're crisscross, if you want to prank your friend and have 2 A keycaps or something, so you'll be able to program anything with anything. So that's just, and that'll be done with the PC configuration program. Okay, so new keyboard has 2 DB9s, guitar style, a joystick connector, very easily. We'll have a Bluetooth dongle and 64. Yeah, I mean, so there's no joystick ports obviously on here, but yeah, if you could actually do a Bluetooth dongle into a 64 for a breadbin and have connectors on the dongle to go to. So yeah, with hardware wise, there's a lot of things we can do. I'm not sure what's feasible, what's really not feasible. Most everything is feasible, unfortunately for me. So keyboard connector, also joystick connection, preset or whatever. I'll just sit on the couch and just use the keyboard across the room. Well, yeah, you can do that. So that's one of the things about the Bling box is the US or the Bluetooth besides the USB. And if I can figure out a nifty way to do a battery powered one, then yeah, you'll be able to actually do that. That's why I wanted to do a little plug-in daughter board for a regular 64, where it plugs into the keyboard header, and it was just a wireless Bluetooth receiver, and then you could use the Bling box or basically any Bluetooth keyboard at that point if you wanted to remotely. But obviously, Bling box would make more sense because it's the right key caps and the right key positions and all that. So. Okay, anything else we got going on, guys? Any other questions you got to ask? I really didn't have much other than thank you everyone again for supporting the campaign. It's going to be a little crazy ride. Hopefully not like last time. Oh, geez. So I've done so much work ahead of this one, well, a couple of years worth, literally. And then I expected some last minute issues like this printing issue. It's like, well, there's lots of companies that do printing, and like I said, I'm hopefully I can and get my setup to work correctly for that. Been chatting with a guy on YouTube that actually does this all the time, and he's like, don't worry about it, I'm easy, not a big deal. I'm like, okay, so his name is Jay. If you're on YouTube and you're looking for UV printing stuff, go check out, look for Jay's Printer Shop. He's a pretty cool dude. So, all right. So I think that's about it. Nobody else got any questions going on? So thank you again. And if you have questions, then you can hit me up through the campaign, through CBMSTUFF.COM website, through my Discord. Oh, listen, popped up a question here. Okay, let's talk shipping to the EU. You have a ton of potential customers there. However, the current shipping fees are through the roof. Yep, that's the way it is. Unfortunately, there's nothing I can do about the shipping costs. That was the reason I wanted the stuff shipped from China initially for the last campaign, because it was cheaper for everybody that way. But the problem is quality control. There's simply no way to do it without doing it from here. So it's a U.S. created product, and I appreciate the European support. But it's really not too bad, I guess. So somebody asked me, I calculated this the other day, put it on the campaign in the comment section. So the Bling box is basically the same size as a Blingboard64 box, is the exact same box. So the boxes are 16 by 6 by 2. So if you go to your own Deutsche Post or DHL or whatever your country happens to use for print or shipping wise, or go to USPS.com because everything's shipped through them. You can look for a price for a 16 by 6 by 2. The Blingboard64 weighs exactly 1 pound. So it's 450 grams. So 454 grams is 1 pound. And then there's the weight of the box and the packing material. So basically everything is 1 pound, 8 ounces for a single Blingboard64 complete kit or completely assembled version. So if you've got 2, you can just basically double the weight, 3, and triple the weight. So I'll give you an idea of what it costs. So I calculated the other day, it was $26.50 going to Germany, to Berlin. I just happened to pick. And for that particular size box and weight. So that gives you an idea of what shipping cost is. I know people want me to have a distributor there, and it's something that may be impossible in the future, but there's just so many issues with having a distributor because they want profit in this, and there's no profit in this. This is a crowdfunding campaign, so there's really no profit in it. So you can't, give them a 30% discount for something that already is, can be only offered for 0% discount. So that's an issue with it. So if you got suggestions, I'm all ears, but that's pretty much the way it's been, for shipping in general. But I ship a lot of products. I mean, I would say 80% of all my products for CBMSTUFF.COM go to Germany. And so I'm shipping to Germany constantly. And so it's really not that bad. What is bad are some countries, like Australia is particularly bad for the US. It's always the highest. And so is some European country. It's either Greenland or Iceland. One of the two is really high, like Australia is as well. But other than that, almost everything in the EU is about the same price anyway. France, I know the same as Germany. What is kind of weird to me, though, is that same package going to Austria, which is literally next door, is about $4 more. So apparently Austria, they charge more for shipping. I don't know why, but that's the only one I noticed in the EU that was a little bit different than everybody else's. So sorry about the shipping. Not much I can do about it, what it costs. So we'll look into the future, maybe if we can get a distributor that doesn't want an arm and a leg. Let's see, will you just be able to choose between multiple lighting configurations? I can imagine having different lighting schemes for your various games. Yeah, you're able to program on macros on the key. So that's the good news and bad news about programmability. It's good news for you guys, bad news for me, because it's a ton of work to do it. But I think I've got it pretty well future-proof now, where I don't have to sit back and do more coding later on. We'll design different patterns and different lighting schemes. So you want to do a morning scheme, an afternoon scheme, or if you want to do like, a game scheme and a non-game scheme, you'll to actually set those from the keyboard using the function key. So basically it's like Commodore, what did I do the other day? Commodore Shift and then L and then 1 gave me the light for 1, and then Commodore 2 and then 3 and then 4. So I have the ability to read, I can read every single keycap on the keyboard at the exact same time, unlike the 64 who can't do that. So I can have multiple key presses that you can never do on 64 for doing, different types of key qualifiers for functions. So yeah, we'll have different lighting capability, different patterns. I mean, and I'm trying to figure out a neat way to do a PC program. And so I'm calling out my programmers. Anybody who wants to help me do some PC programming, that'd be great. So I can actually do a matrix besides the position of each one of the keys, which each one does, what each LED does individually, what each lighting pattern will do individually, and multiple lighting patterns, and have pages of patterns and stuff you can do in program for delays and things. And then the screen blanker too. So like a screen blanker, we've got a keyboard blanker. So I have a keyboard blanker. One thing I did was like the matrix falling, and then I had one that simply went in and out. So then there's a bunch of different demo things I experimented with, like what's in the video, that whole thing. That's just kind of a big experiment. So anything we can come up with, we can do, but we have to be able to control it. In order to control it, we need some kind of coding to do it. And so we need basically like pages. And so what I've got is basically a page of LED positions and times and colors. And so you just change the page and it changes the way things do. But we need a way to be able to edit those on a more user-friendly environment. So let's see what else we got here. What type of programs can run on Super Duper? Anything like a PDF viewer for me? So the Super Duper board doesn't do anything like that. I guess, we could send data to, so there's a communication port with a file. We can actually open a file on the board and send it to the 64. So I suppose if you wanted to open up a PDF file and you had an interpreter on the 64 side, you can do that. The Bling box itself, if you've got a display, you'll be able to actually display data like that on the TFT for it. So yeah, it's just possible. Anything's possible. It's just coding, really. If it's physically able to be done with the existing hardware, then we can do it just by changing the coding. So I learned today that my chair keeps collapsing, so it's probably time for a new chair. So Super board has an analog in. Could you bring a SID output, run the FFT? Yeah, so it doesn't have an analog. I don't think it does. That's a good question. Yeah, I thought about this already. So I'll have to look at that. The issue with having an analog in is you got to be able to condition the signal, because there's a level difference between the 64 and the computer that's used on the Blingboard itself. So I'm using ESP32S3, which is the most powerful of all the family. And it certainly can do FFTs, no problem whatsoever. It's super fast. And it's got floating point and all that, so it can handle that no problem. The issue is that it's a 3.3 volt input on the analog side, max, and the 64 puts out 5 volts. And like if you're doing a SID output, I'm not sure what peak to peak on the SID is, but it actually might be lower. It's audio, so it shouldn't be that high, but who knows? In any case, you'd have to have some kind of conditioning so you didn't damage the CPU. So I'll look into that. Probably should look into it now, because I literally just changed the boards again. Every single board just got changed. So I got in, since the campaign started, I've gotten in 2 different revisions of boards, all the boards, because we went to the Super Duper, so I had to make a version for that. And then I added the connector for the other LED output, so I had to do another one for that. And then I changed from one of the things I learned. It's kind of bizarre. So I try to stay with single-sided SMT, because flipping a board over is, to do the back side of the board is cost more. And so I totally expected that with this campaign with the main board. but the cost was double, and I did not expect that. So I went back and redesigned the board again so that the diodes, the caps, and the LEDs were on the same side of the board, and which was a kind of a magical thing to do to get everything to fit. And so I got it to all fit. And so I guess I'll look at this again to see if we can do an FFT input into it. So that's not a bad idea. I like the idea. So I'll look into that. So, okay. Anything else, anybody? Because everybody keeps popping in last second questions. Anybody? Okay. All right. Well, so we've been here for almost an hour now. I expect it to be about 10 minutes presentation. So, hey, it is what it is. So again, thank you everybody for your support. I appreciate it. If you're new to this, go to the link in this video. So link to the campaign. We got 6 days left. It ends on May 30th at 11:59 p.m. apparently. I'm not sure why it does. And we will try to get to the final stretch goal to get ourselves a bling box. There it is. One of these. So, yeah, the worst case scenario of this whole thing too is if for some reason we don't get there, I may end up making the board and the Dazzler board a separate product, and then you can 3D print your own case or something like that. It's kind of too cool to just to keep from everybody. And then one thing, if we did get to this goal, then I need some feedback, because this box is a pretty generic box. So I've got a few different designs with like traditional, the ribbing across here, like Commodore's ribbing they use for the keyboards, and then the front's tilted and not tilted. And I just need to figure out what is aesthetically pleasing for everybody. I mean, this is kind of a generic old school, it kind of reminds me of the old retro, type of boxes. So I guess it's not too bad, but all right. So that's it, guys. Thank you. I appreciate it. And I will see you out there.